Let me start with you on this, Amy. There have been guys, Paul Krugman being one of them, who've said the Texas miracle is a mirage, that the data just doesn't bear it out. Do you see any problems in the data that I'm pointing out? Is the Texas miracle a mirage?
Well, I haven't read Paul Krugman's critique. I know that Rick Perry was certainly under attack, that a lot of the growth in Texas is because of immigration and illegal immigration. That, I think, is a separate issue. But what really jumped out at me was a story about Hardee's and how difficult it is for them to open up new shops in California and opening up 300 in Texas. And to me, that points to the issue that the president and his party says that they're for the middle class. But let's look at what free markets are doing. They're actually growing jobs for the middle class in Texas. If you want to get a job at Hardee's, you can get one in Texas. If you want one in California, it's very difficult. And as someone who spends a lot of time in California and actually loves California, it's very apparent when you're there that, you know, cities like San Francisco or Los Angeles are for the very rich and the very poor, and the middle class, they move out.
It's doubtful at this table that any of us are going to take up the mantle of saying, you know, you got it all wrong here.
You want me to
California. Do you have that? Go for it, man, if you got it.
If I have to, I'll pretend. Well, we care more in California, and we're nicer. That's all I got.
Well,
organic food.
Yeah, but
And you have
we
white
do
people-
yoga.
Yeah.
Texas, not even true.
you know, let me just rebut that. Even where you're attempting
Don't
to
rebut
go
that.
there.
You won't
That
even let him
wasn't
get that.
serious.
That was fine. That was a
California's
good
been
liberal
so-
impersonation.
That was not even a that was my Chevy Chase as Ford impression. That wasn't even an attempt.
I think the argument, or some version of what you just said, is that California creates a better lifestyle and social services.
If you can afford it. It's like anywhere else where everything is very expensive. It's if you have the income to live well in California, then you're okay. But you got to understand something about California. This is something that we rarely ever talk about. We think about Hollywood being there. None of these Hollywood people pay taxes in California. And I'm not saying all of them, but most of there's a reason why so many production companies are located in Park City, Utah, or in Sun Valley, Idaho. You know, every time the New York Post or the Daily News announces a celebrity bought some palatial apartment or townhome here in New York City, you got to be telling yourself they bought it through a corporation. There are tax attorneys and lawyers who are making it so they're not paying the city's 5% income tax. How could California be in such a bad shape when it has America's #1 export industry, Hollywood?
It also has Palo Alto. It has Silicon Valley. I mean, when you look at the fact that the state is, by the way, the state budget is in huge trouble. We're talking about municipalities going down. But the fact that it's not buoyed even more, given that it has Hollywood, it has Silicon Valley, these are huge global industries that have weathered the storm. Huge natural resource. California is the 5th largest economy in the world, by the way, on its own, largely because of those two industries. And it still has huge budget shortfalls. But what's interesting, Will, I think, is when you look at the one factor that has a commonality between these different municipalities, and Business Insider actually had a great slideshow that showed what's wrong with these cities. Public sector union costs. And public sector union costs that have to do with long-term entitlement spending. So we're talking about pensions. This is about pensions, about deals that were cut 15 or 20 years ago that municipalities cannot pay. And by the way, they're going to kick it up the chain now. What do they do when the city goes bankrupt? They say, well, we'll have the county pay for our police. When the county goes bankrupt, they'll say the state. And if the state of California gets into real trouble, they're going to turn to the feds. Right.
So if California all of a sudden had no income tax and a 0% corporate tax, would that solve California's problems?
Boom.
Boom?
No.
The answer is boom?
And see, I don't think that is the answer, in fairness.
I like how succinct
I love where he is.
though.
I love where he is on this, but I don't think that's the answer because it has 1/8 of all welfare recipients in the country.
1/3.
I'm sorry, 1/3.
1/3
the population.
1/8 of the
1/3 of the
But
welfare
so
recipients.
much. California is a desirable state. It is geographically.
Yes.
When you compare,
Lovely people.
When Mitt Romney,
They've got wine.
Great life.
when Mitt Romney, you've seen those commercials with Rob Lowe and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Look at all those white people with dreads.
Whoa, wait a second. Now, that's the thing. When Mitt Romney said that Rick Perry was dealt 4 aces, there's not a whole lot about California you don't get in Texas. You got coasts. You can drill for oil. You've got a diverse population. You've got everything in Texas that you got in California. The only thing different is the politics.
And the wine.
And the wine.
Yeah, see, I don't think they can just...
They make Shiner beer in Texas.
I disagree with the boom analysis because...
I did too. I'm with you on this,
It would
Will.
solve so many
problem
problems.
is California...
econometrics at work.
Because California stuck the heroin needle so deep in, you
That's
can't
right.
just
You
jerk
can't
it
just pull
out.
it out.
They've got all these pensions, all these state costs. They're going to have to figure out a way to pay for it. Buck, you point out that pension
Okay,
costs
half
are the...
boom.
Pension costs are the cause of this. Pension costs at these cities in California have grown 11% a year. That's twice the rate of public safety, recreation, sanitation. That's by the Stanford Institute on Economic Policy. It is the source of the problem. You're right. Once the spigot gets turned off at the state level, you see these municipal bankruptcies.
Governor Schwarzenegger tried, if I recall, he tried to deal with this. Well, he tried to deal with these costs, and that was it. As soon as he tried to take, he couldn't pull the Chris Christie miracle off. As soon as he tried to take on public sector unions, it was like the end of his governorship. I mean, he was basically neutered at that point.
So here's